Hello there and welcome to Point of Vue. I'm Michael Leishman. My guest grew up in rural Morrinsville and has gone from hiding her disability to seeing it as a superpower. Angela Vale is CEO of Footprint and works with boards and HR leaders to design employee benefits and financial services programs for all sorts of businesses. And from her own experience, she's in a unique position to help New Zealanders understand a group of conditions that affects an estimated 10% of the New Zealand population. So Angela, welcome to the program. Lovely to see you. And I guess can you tell me your journey to this point so far?
Oh gosh, it's a long journey. Starting from very young, I didn't realise, and my family didn't realise I was dyslexic. We moved around a lot, which helped, I think, sort of disguise that a little bit. So in the early years when I went to school, I think the teachers thought that I was just trying to play catch up because I had been to so many schools. And so it really wasn't until probably my late teens, early 20s, that I started to discover that there was an official label for what I had found out through school, which was that I was an academic, and that label was to be called dyslexic.
So now you're a CEO.
And now I'm a CEO, yeah. And look, I wouldn't have dreamed of it when I was young, that's for sure. I spent a lot of my time trying to avoid writing reports of any kind or putting myself into any situation that might show up my dyslexia. But my journey so far, I overcame that, and here we are today.
So how did it manifest itself? Were you just struggling with reading or just learning? What was the effect effectively?
Spelling and reading were very difficult, and when I really started to, I guess, feel shame about it and start to hide it was in the school days, when you'd have to stand up in the middle of class and read from the book, or you'd have to stand up and read out what your spelling test results were. And just cringe. They were cringe-worthy moments. And of course, in those situations as a youngster, your confidence drops, and it encourages attention and bullying. So all the wrong sort of attention from your peers. So basically, I learned that to not be able to spell was a really bad thing, and a really bad thing for me. So I was on a mission to hide it and not acknowledge it in any way.
So how can you hide that when, as you say, there's all those sort of tests and the standing up in front of the class, very difficult to hide, isn't it?
Some things you can do, and as I got older, I got smarter with some of the ways to dodge and dive. When you're young and in school, there wasn't a lot. So what I would try to do, for example, there was a French class. So, English was bad enough, but, now put me in French class. And so I would, as it happened, be sick every time that class came about. And so I might be sick quite regularly or away, which doesn't help the whole situation because you've got massive absenteeism on top of all of that. You just find different ways as much as you could to avoid putting yourself in those situations.
So how did your parents cope with all of this?
Yeah, well, I had a very transient background, and there was a lot going on at home at the time. So it really it came down to, I think, a lot of attention went into the bullying that was going on, as opposed to sort of what got me that attention in the first place. And so I got a lot of support from a look after yourself, you're loved, you're supported type of thing to address bullying. But we really didn't uncover the dyslexia until I was older.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Is that a sign of those times, or is it still a case today where a child could go through to your late teens and early 20s before you even discovered that there was an issue? That's extraordinary, really, when you think about it, isn't it?
It is. Look, and I would imagine that it would be much harder today than back then. Like I say, the moving around a lot exacerbated that situation. But, I've got children that have gone through school, and I'm aware of the type of support that's available in schools, many schools now. And so I think it's a long way better I'm sure there's things that can be improved, but I think it is a long way better. And generally, I've found that, standing out with let's say dyslexia or something else isn't seen as it was when I was young. It's more accepted now today by our youth.
I mean, it seems quite common. Often you hear of kids or adults that say they're dyslexic, and they're generally really successful. And you sort of, it's not like there is any sort of negative connotation necessarily, as long as, of course, it's discovered that you've actually got it.
Yeah, it really has changed a lot. And from my experience, a lot of the negative, not all, but a lot of the negative feelings that I had about it really stemmed from my young mind associating school bullying with dyslexia, and so I took that into adulthood for a wee while. And so my perception of it was out. And part of my journey has been to change my perception of what happens when you're honest about this sort of thing. And that's been a really interesting journey, and I'm glad I've taken it.
Yes, indeed. Now, you refer to it as a neurodiversity. Is that? Can you explain what neurodiversity is?
For me, my neurodiverse abilities, I feel, is that my brain, for example, has been wired differently. And so for me, even though spelling and reading might be more difficult, I believe that taught me to be solution focused in other ways. And so from a young age, my brain has been very much a problem solver and very solutions focused. And one of the things I say about my ability is that I can see patterns. I see patterns of behavior, commercial patterns. I can read a room, I can adapt. And so I can predict to some degree what I might be walking into, and therefore be prepared for that. So, that stems from feeling very young that I had to make up for something. And so my brain was working in other ways to compensate. And that's been a real gift, for my career and for my life.
But it's intriguing, isn't it, because you can't, if you have difficulty in front of a class, and a lot of people do, of course, getting up and reading, or you're spelling, I mean, presumably you think you're dumb. How do you sort of recover from that? Because when you're immature and young, that confidence goes, and I imagine it must be really sort of hard to get that back.
Yeah. Look, it has been a journey, and I did think I was dumb at school. And through the early years of going into the workforce, but little by little I realized I could do more than I thought. I'd put myself in a little box, and what I did allow myself to do was follow my curiosity, and really just push myself until I found a ceiling. So yes, I would be scared, and but I still wanted to know what I could do and how far I could go. And so as opportunities came up, I just took them and dealt with them accordingly. And, you can teach yourself sort of small tricks and do different things. And when I was younger, spell check and those sort of things wasn't, really around, but, that's been a godsend since I became older. But, there's little things you can do. And if you're prepared to push yourself and experiment, and like the biggest thing, honestly, that I can say is focus on your strengths. If you're focusing on the things you can't do, that's going to keep you back. And if you focus on what you really can do, be aware of what's more difficult.
Have you got an example of a trick that you used or used to use, or perhaps still do?
Well, when I was young and I was really trying to get past where I was, for example, I'll say that I started off in the sewing manufacturing industry, and I went into the research and development area. It was a big deal because I'd got off a sewing machine and I was now in research and development. So from being scared about my dyslexia, not that I knew, but I knew I couldn't spell. So, that was a big concern for me. And what I ended up doing is picking one word per day that I would learn. So, for example, when I went into that role, I didn't know how to spell sleeve. And, I'm in manufacturing. So, I picked sleeve, and I memorized and learned that to just until, that was ingrained in me. And then I might pick trouser. and just, word by word by word, I would draw images of these things as well, and just try and create more than just the reading, create a sense and a feel and a story around these, so you have everything together. And I spent many years, and I will still do things like that today. So it was a good little trick for me.
Pardon my ignorance, but once you've got dyslexia, have you always got dyslexia? Is there a way of curing yourself, if that's the right term?
I believe you've always had it. I'm not an expert in the field. I'm certainly, have just lived my life with it, but I believe so. But there are certainly tricks that you can use to help you along the way, and there's support that's out there, and so taking full advantage of that. There's also a spectrum, of how difficult or how strong your neurodiversity might be as well. So, not everybody's got exactly the same thing or in the same spot or has the same challenges.
Fantastic. What a great story, great journey. And so from going through manufacturing, from working that sewing machine to a CEO, we'll find out more about Angela's life and what's next, and the company Footprint as well. That's in the next part of Point of View. We're back in just a couple of minutes. Well, welcome back. This is Point of View. I'm Michael Leishman. My guest is Angela Vale, CEO of Footprint. So, Angela, you started as a machine operator, effectively a sewing machine operator. You're now the CEO of Footprint, which is a financial services company. That is quite a journey, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I never would have pictured it when I was young, but we're digital, we're innovative, we're challenging the status quo when it comes to estate planning and financial services. So it's great for a dyslexic person who thinks differently.
So tell us about the company. It's wills, it's succession plans, and financial services.
There's two sections to it. One is the direct to consumer, and that is wills and estate planning. And then the other side is the B2B, so working with employers, helping to provide their employees with financial wellbeing solutions. And so that's all about improving, obviously, financial wellbeing through money management, estate planning as part of that, general wellbeing, and investing. So all the aspects of the financial gambit. We work with employers to help, give employees access to that.
Now, retaining staff is a huge issue across the country, especially so in the rural environment when sometimes people are working more remotely perhaps, or more isolated. What do you think rural employers can do to help keep their staff, their best staff?
Well, certainly what we're seeing at the moment is that rural employers and all employers are very concerned about the loss of staff. On top of that, you've got increasing cost of living at the moment. And what we know is that employees, or all of us in general, when we start to worry about our finances and being able to meet those, we'll start to go, what's the solution for that? And for many, it has been and will continue to be, well, I need more money. So if my employer's not going to give me that, then I'll go elsewhere. We know that actually throwing money at the situation isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's very much about your relationship with money and what to do with what you've got, what you can do with it, how to manage money better, how to get it working for you better. And so that's when employers can really take an opportunity to help with employee financial confidence and resilience. And so, our packages, for example, help with that literacy, so learning more, and then not just learning, but actually then having tools and resources that employees can practically use at home with their people around them if they want to. And so giving them access to that and the right information, and then the right people, can actually be a solution that's a lifelong solution, rather than just try and throw some money at it now and you, for example, keep using the same maybe bad habits or just habits that aren't so good for you. So helping to reduce financial stress is a really good way to help keep your employees around.
Now, you recently released a white paper for employers on the subject of wellness, employee wellness. So what is it? Is it called ADAPT?
So I created ADAPT, and really that comes from my life coaching background. I've been a life coach for many years. And really what I had seen in the market is that there was such a massive gap when it came to financial wellness. And for example, what you might hear a lot of is good advice, such as if you're going to be financially resilient, have a rainy day account. Make sure you've got enough funds to last you 3 months if you were unemployed, those sorts of things. And that's good advice, except that from where you are now to there can be a massive gap. If you're somebody that thinks you're already tapped out and you're already struggling, how do you get to have a rainy day fund? And so that actually comes down again to your beliefs and the decisions, your thoughts and feelings, everything to do with money and around you. So what I wanted to do is bring the coaching model that I've used in my own business into a really easy, self-driven learning environment where employees could access the tools to take them on a journey that helps them understand what is working for them and what's not working for them to help achieve their goals. So that's what ADAPT's about. It's awareness, define, aspire, play, and tune in. And all of those things are designed to get in under the hood and help achieve goals.
So you can do it. I mean, I think of that as rainy day money. I struggle, each week, with the insurance bills and every other bill, and the car breaks down and that. I mean, we're all in this together, aren't we? We'll have these issues where something comes out of the blue, and it's not often that you do have that sort of money sitting around. Exactly.
It's got to be planned. And there's an assumption that if you could have done it, you would have done it already. So that means something has to change. And so, that's what ADAPT is about, taking you through a process of doing things differently, potentially going outside your comfort zone, but in a sort of safe trial environment to help you do some things differently, see the results, get better, or get different results, I guess, and then go, does that work for me? Yes, no, and then you continue the process.
What are the advantages for an employer to sort of take care of employees, and particularly when it comes to like wills and estate planning, which you would think is not their business, but why should they, I guess, get involved in that?
For one, it helps with financial resilience. If you're not worried, even subconsciously, you're more present in your workplace. And, if you take the rural sector, for example, you want as much presence as possible. It's a high risk environment. So taking away any distraction, which we know that financial distractions can be pretty high up there, addressing that can help a lot. The other thing too is that ask any employer that's had an employee pass away. And where there's not been a will in place, there can be just massive issues around, who does the outstanding pay go to, the holiday pay, who's getting what. You might, often the employer, particularly in small communities, knows the family and wants to be in a position to help, but can't because there's no will in place to set direction. That means that anything that might be due to family, a widow or widower, is going to be very delayed in getting there. And we've seen that that's caused massive hardships. And I think that's felt stronger in, smaller communities, than anywhere else, because just everybody knows each other. And so, really, it's important for everybody all round. And I know that employers that have experienced that really don't want to experience it again. It's hard on everyone.
So what can employers in farming, in the rural agriculture, agribusiness sector do to help protect their staff and families?
Yeah, well, certainly they can come see us, because we have, we have services that are directly aligned to, like I say, the education, all our services include the ability to create a will, and broader estate planning services as well. There's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of government information of what you're wanting to do. If employers are wanting to know, what options are available to them, what should they be looking at. So there's definitely a lot of services and information out there to start exploring. But for example, Footprint is a sort of the one-stop shop for all of that. The whole idea is that we make it easy, that you can just go there and you don't have to go all over the place.
Now, of course, we began the program talking about your neurodiversity, your dyslexia. So what about rural employers who have to deal with, say, a staff who might be neurodiverse? What should they know? What should they do? Can they understand what's going on?
I think about my journey and how helpful it would have been to be in environments that knew a little bit. You don't have to be experts, but just knew a little bit about the different challenges people may have. For example, I was in so many workshops, and every single workshop, their employer is asking you to write on Post-it notes and pop Post-it notes on the wall and read out Post-it notes. And, that is sort of like a standard way of engaging with staff. And I would say try and mix it up a little bit. We have people that are very strong readers. We have people that are very strong, that they learn more from listening, and then others that learn more from doing. So really the way in which you engage with staff and develop staff, and performance manage staff can be far more diverse than what I experienced. So being a little bit more aware of the different types of challenges, you can actually adapt your business just to have a broader way of communicating.
And what advice would you give youngsters, or even adults, I guess, especially in the rural environment, who have yet to come to terms with the fact that they might have a neurodiversity or a neurological difference?
What I would really say, honestly, is focus on what you can do. You'll have strengths. Everyone's got strengths. And starting to tap into understanding where you're special, where you're amazing, where your strengths are. The mere fact that, something else is more challenging, I strongly believe means that another part of your brain is working stronger in other areas. And so, you're going to have abilities that stand out. And so follow those, because if you're just focusing on what you can't do, it just won't take you forward. Ignoring it doesn't help either. You need to try and mitigate, the risks that may be associated or the challenges that come with that. But boy, I can say that my life changed a lot when I focused on my strengths. And so that would be the thing I would tell myself, and the thing I would tell anybody else if you were to do one.
Just focus on the strengths. So now you're CEO of a financial services company, Footprint as it's called. Does every day your dyslexia come into play in some way? Do you have to, call on those tricks, that experience that you've had over the years to cope with being in such a role, a responsibility as CEO?
Yeah, it's very much a part of my life. And, and some days when you're more tired, it's more of a hassle. And then other days that you don't even notice it, even though, you know that you're dealing with it. It's on a tired day reading, well, actually, even not that. If I were to say my team, for example, they know I'm dyslexic, so they know not to send me really long emails. I've been very upfront. Having lots of reading today is just going to exhaust me. So they know that bullet points are my friend, and being straight to the point. So if you can actually help teach others how to engage with you, that is immensely helpful for you, but it's immensely helpful for them as well.
Well, bullet points are fantastic, aren't they? You should be able to cope with bullet points anyway. I mean, who needs screeds and screeds? I think people write lots of material in the effort or the hope that you'll get bored and distracted and won't actually understand what's going on. But of course, in your role, you can't afford to do that.
No, absolutely. And look, and I've got good people around me, and you build a team that make up for your weaknesses and challenges. So I've got some great spellers in the team, and which is fabulous. And that's the whole part of being a team. All of us have different strengths in different ways, and we tap into that. And they've got different challenges themselves, and somebody else will make up for that, and that's what makes us stick, and that's what makes us work.
Well, Angela, it's been really lovely to talk to you. I think for the second time we've had a chat, and really appreciate your time. People can get in touch with you through what, footprint.co.nz?
Correct. Yeah, My Footprint or Footprint Connect. We're there. Give us a shout. We're happy to talk to you.
Thanks so much. Angela Vale, CEO of financial services company Footprint, our Point of View this week. And we'll have another one at the same time next week. Thanks for your company. Look forward to seeing you then.